Welcome, I'm Rabbi Phil Bressler of Beit Am in Corvallis, Oregon, and this is the daily summary video for the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch Yomi Daily Halacha Learning Project, covering the passage from Siman 105 Seif 1 to Siman 106 Seif 8. You can find links to the Hebrew and English text of this passage and to the calendar of upcoming passages in this video's description. So we're going to talk today about things that are forbidden to do during Chol HaMoed because they are bothersome. Remember, Chol HaMoed is the intermediate days in between the days of Yom Tov at the beginning and end of Sukkot and Pesach. So this short Siman, number 105, brings a couple of specific examples to illustrate the point that if you're going to do melacha, those specifically prohibited labors, on Chol HaMoed, even if it's permissible, and even if it's obviously permissible from an outside perspective, you should still do it discreetly if possible, because it's kind of a bother. So examples include taking in merchandise or moving stuff between apartments. And the fact that this is a concern at all, I think, really illustrates the difference between the Jewish concept of what a holiday is, which is really sacred time, and the American concept of what a holiday is, which is basically just a day off. Moving is a good example here. You might plan actually to move on, say, Labor Day or Memorial Day because it's a free day when you're not otherwise committed to work. But you normally wouldn't think about how you're laboring away on Labor Day, moving your stuff from one place to another, might affect someone else's experience of the holiday, and maybe we should. The next Siman, 106, is all about restrictions on buying and selling during Chol HaMoed. Now, this idea, what you might call the sort of spirit of the holiday during Chol HaMoed, is unpacked further in this next Siman with regard to commerce. So the Kitzur starts by taking a hard line. It says all commerce is forbidden, whether buying or selling. But almost immediately it starts to walk it back. It says, but if you stand to make a big profit, I think there's some recognition here that there's a reality for most people that closing up shop and not earning any income at all for a whole week, twice a year, is really impossible. They simply wouldn't do it even if you asked them to, and so we won't try to ask them to. What we will ask, though, is that the spirit of the holiday, as it were, be maintained. So we should try to keep our commerce discreet, and if you do some commerce and make a profit, you should try to turn around and spend some of that in honor of the coming Yom Tov, a little more than you might have otherwise. There are a number of other exceptions to the no commerce rule that follow. If the value of your merchandise is going to depreciate if you don't sell it now during Chol HaMoed, such that you'll end up taking a loss later, you can sell that. Remember, loss prevention is permissible. Taking a smaller profit or even just breaking even, though, you can't sell because, as it says, unearned profit is not considered a loss. This seems to conflict with the previous seif that says, if you have an opportunity to make a big profit, which doesn't seem like an idea grounded in loss prevention at all. That'll become clear in a little bit. Special commerce opportunities that occur during Chol HaMoed, like fairs or market days that precede a big non-Jewish holiday, you can sell during that time, but not at, say, regular weekly market days. Merchants or ships that arrive very infrequently, you can buy from them to get a screaming deal, or you can sell to them for a big profit because they are infrequent and irregular. This week only type sales, the example in Kitzur is buying wine at the time of vintage. It's okay to buy at that point for your own use, but not for business. Stuff that's needed for the coming Yom Tov can be bought and sold, even openly, because it's obvious what it's for. And since your store is open anyway, you can sell to whoever walks in, whether they're a Jew or a non-Jew. And I think there's some aspect of, getting along with our neighbors here. We would not want to be seen as turning away non-Jews. I think that would be a bad look. Debt collection is discouraged, but potentially permissible during Chol HaMoed. Lending with interest to non-Jews is permitted. It would be a loss if they took their business elsewhere, but you should spend some of the profit you make for the Yom Tov. Seif 7 seems to contradict just about everything that's been said, but when it says that selling merchandise to someone who is not a regular customer is forbidden. What about those, special market days? What about those ships in ports? I think what we're talking about here is about regular commerce that you might think to do, just sort of regular store hours, right? Not for any special occasion or for significant profits or to avoid significant losses. Just like regular shop hours don't do that kind of commerce. Despite all the exceptions that have been mentioned, the all commerce is forbidden rule actually really does hold up. But one other exception is quote unquote regular commerce that you need to do in order to maintain relationships and to keep your business stable. If someone's going to stop buying or selling to you regularly because you're going to take a week off, then that's actually a form of loss prevention to go ahead and do that business and make sure you maintain that relationship going forward. So ultimately, regular commerce is what's prohibited, but regular commerce that you might do to prevent loss is okay, and just about anything that's sort of a special one-time only opportunity is a potential exception. Finally, don't exchange money on Chol HaMoed. It's unclear to me if this last statement is a blanket prohibition overriding all those previous exceptions or not. I mean, what if a particular currency spikes or craters suddenly? Couldn't you buy or sell that in order to capitalize on that special opportunity? That would seem to be permissible within the bounds of the previous exceptions. And I think considering that currency exchange was actually a relatively common business for Jews, I think partially because it had a negative connotation, negative association for Christians, it seems likely to me that it would be permitted. But as a matter of regular business, don't be in the habit of exchanging money because it's still considered business. That's all for today. As always, our learning is dedicated to Rabbi Shlomo Gansfried, the author of the Kitzur, and the historic Jewish community of Uzhhorod, Ukraine. We'll see you tomorrow.